Welcome to another episode of the Five Senses webcast. I'm your host, Robert Zinni, and today it is my pleasure to have world-renowned explorers Mike and Geneva Saint-Amour. They actually lived here in Yavapai County for a while and dedicated over 20 years of their professionalism to education in the Quad City area and Yavapai County. We love our teachers on the show. They have a blog called It's Not a Slow Car, but a Fast House. And they are here to talk about their world travels ever since they retired. Mike, Geneva, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us, Robert.
Mm-hmm. So you have been traveling for a while, so I wonder, why are you back in Prescott when you're supposed to be on this magical journey?
Yeah, we have a few more countries to finish. We were in Brazil when COVID hit and borders closed. We thought we'd sit it out for a while and enjoy Brazil. We ended up finally renting a home. We stayed in a really great community in southern Brazil. And after 13 months of being there, we decided maybe it was time to do something else with our time and money and wait for borders to open. Mm-hmm. So we exited Brazil and left our vehicle down there. We have a truck camper down there waiting for us. And maybe someday soon we can go back and finish exploring South America.
That'll be fun.
Yeah, and let me add a little bit of detail to that piece. The Brazilian said, you have to leave by March 16th or you need to be a resident. So you had to apply for residency. As in all countries, they have their rules. And it was actually, COVID was getting really, really serious then at that point in time. They were about 3 months behind the U.S. So when the United States was really bad in the hospitals and stuff, Brazil wasn't. By the time March turned around, it started getting really bad. So we've been actually really fortunate to be able to kind of navigate where it isn't and or it's been, slowing down.
So we leave the storm behind us and go somewhere else.
The COVID storm?
The COVID storm.
Hey, at least you're not going to get it
right behind us.
Right.
So how was it living in Brazil for 10 months being kind of quarantined in a country?
Well, of all of the countries we've traveled through or have yet to visit, every one of them speaks either English or Spanish. We got stuck in the only country on the whole route that speaks another language, and that's Portuguese. So our learning curve for Portuguese was much quicker than we anticipated. We've spent a lot more time practicing.
Hers was good. Mine, not so much.
I can relate.
And we made friends in the community, just kind of like fence neighbors, if you would. The woman across the fence became a good buddy. She spoke English and Portuguese. Mm-hmm. Her family all lived in the home, and they would make special food and share some with us, and we would do the same with them. They had never tasted things like American-style brownies, American-style cornbread.
Pumpkin pie.
Pumpkin pie, they don't eat pumpkins as a sweet. They eat pumpkins as a vegetable. So it was a little strange to her to have it sweet in a pie. And then all of Thanksgiving dinner, Christmas dinner, they do it very differently. So we were able to share a plate through the fence because we were quarantined and so were they. But sharing a plate of food back and forth worked out. And Brazilians know how to barbecue.
Really?
Oh my gosh.
It's huge.
So we were always hopeful on Sunday morning that we'd see the puff of smoke coming out of their chimney and smell the delicious Brazilian churrascaria coming out of the kitchen.
What is that?
Churrascaria means barbecue. It's a fancy way of barbecuing, but it's usually in the center of the house instead of American style is to barbecue out back. For them, it's a real family event. So the churrascaria is in the kitchen where they cook it. Everybody gathers around. They're all involved in the process of cooking.
Brazil was the first country that we hit that really handled meat and loved meat like Americans.
Okay.
So you would get a hamburger just like Americans, okay? Steak, huge steaks. They loved it. And this churrascaria is a tradition for them where you would go to the restaurant, you would pay a fee, and the fee usually is $10, and they would keep coming by and giving you steak, pork. They cut it off, fried cheese, which is awesome, okay? And all you can eat, just keep coming. $10
On a sword.
on a sword. Yep,
They grill
everything's
it
on a sword.
long, sharp sword.
So when they do it at home, they do it. I mean, it's obviously all you can eat, I guess, whatever you bought, right? But it's on a sword. So they have all these swords in this barbecue pit, and they have certain ways to do it. And that was neat. Our neighbors would go, "Hey, it's Sunday," and we'd smell it and go, "Oh my God, please, please!" And they'd bring a plate over. Yes, yeah, it was pretty cool.
Nice. So what have been some of the most exotic foods down in South America that you've been able to try?
In South America, Colombia has really good food.
Yeah.
Colombia eats a food called an arepa. An arepa is a little bit like a calzone, but just a handful, not a whole big thing, but it's all cooked in there together. They have empanadas, and they fill their empanadas with wonderful things.
They do different things like if you have a hamburger, they put eggs on it. They fry cheese. It's an amazing event to fry cheese. It's kind of, I would say, it's pretty boring, except for there's some delicacies that,
We had guinea pig in Ecuador.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Peru, both those countries, it's traditional to grill guinea pig on a stick. We've had llama and alpaca.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lamb, sheep, goat, pretty common.
Beef.
And lots of beef. But probably the best thing about South American food is truly fresh fruits and vegetables. And they have fruit, mango, banana, that really has flavor. Pineapple, that's incredible. None of it's picked early. None of it's forcefully ripened. None of it's transported zillions of miles away for weeks on end. It's right off the trees and bushes and served. Or you can just go cut it yourself. It's available. Avocados are large and round, bigger than a softball, and not the tiny little bumpy things we're used to seeing.
Yeah, you'll be in a city and kind of a homeless person would be on an avocado tree, cutting it down, okay, cutting the getting the avocados themselves and putting them in a bag, and it would be a park or something, or outside a church, and he would put them in a bag, and he takes it down to your local grocery store, and he gets money for it, and then they sell it, and same with fruit and all this. It's fresh. It takes fresh to a new level.
So this concept of retiring, okay, so we're going to go way back now since we just, talked about Brazil.
Lots of people do it successfully, Robert. You'll get there someday.
What, just retiring and then do whatever I want with my life? Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. So for you two, though, since I knew you before, I believe, Geneva, you said it was cheaper buying a truck and rigging it out, traveling the world, and actually buy a house. So if you can walk me through that process of just like being like, all right, cool, we've been educators for over 20 years, and now we're just going to hit the road and see where life takes us.
Well, Mike's a little older than me, so he retired first.
Little bit.
And surviving on one income, once we knew he was eligible for retirement, the question became, do I keep working, or are we at a stage where we can pack up and go and follow some dreams? And it had always been my goal personally to retire before 50. It's really hard to do in public education.
Couple days she made it.
I did. Well, I left before 50, but I didn't actually collect retirement. So we have had to live on just his retirement pay. Weighing the cost of a home mortgage, property taxes, utilities, insurance for the home, insurance for vehicles, payments for vehicles, we couldn't do it. And we still can't do it in the United States. We couldn't settle back into a home and live on one person's retirement income. It just isn't in our reach.
Especially now.
And spending some inheritance money we had and being really mindful about how we designed our vehicle economically as well as serviceability of it, we were able to create something that suited our living needs and made us really dial back what those needs really were. And then once you're on the road, your most expensive days are driving days.
Yeah.
Gas.
Gas
is the highest bill in our monthly budget. The vehicle is paid for, which means the house on the back of the vehicle is paid for. Right. There's utilities if you choose to go to a place that provides utilities, like a campground where you're going to plug in or something, then you pay for that. Most of South America and Central America, water is free to people. No, they don't charge the humans to have water. The humans of a community or the visitors that are passing through, water is a right, not a privilege, so to speak. Mm-hmm. So we were always able to obtain water for washing and showers and water for cooking. Never a problem filling our tanks and keeping that going. And we have solar on the rig that Mike designed and a battery system to store that solar. So we didn't need electricity for our lives. And it's been affordable.
Right. And a little bit of a take back was we loved traveling. We loved traveling before we said, okay, here's our chance to take off. We knew that that's what we were going to do when we had a chance to retire. It was a shock to us how fast and how early we could. It was. We had spoken to an investment person just with a little bit of money, and he looked at my years in and said, you can retire in a year and a half. And we both looked at each other, huge smiles, and said, wow. Okay. And it wasn't that we disliked our jobs. I mean, Geneva, she came back for school, right?
Yes,
it wasn't that
she
we
did.
disliked it. It really was. It was really a matter of, hey, okay, so we have an opportunity for a different stage. And the stage is we love traveling, so let's do it. We took that time to design the rig when we were both working, so we had plenty of money to put into that. Literally, I retired October 2nd on 2014. We left on October 3rd. Nice. So our first trip, which was States and Canada and in a Westie, so. And the second thing was the same, and I would tell people all the time, I'd say, now I say, having retired and having some years under my belt, traveling isn't for everybody. If you want to do it, it's great, but have a plan. If you love what you're doing, keep doing it. We love traveling, and we loved working. And it wasn't, now traveling becomes a job, but it's a job you love. And that's the difference.
It is a job.
It is.
I think people don't recognize how much work goes
it's a vacation.
into truly living without a house.
Yeah. So what do you mean by as a job? Are you talking about doing logistics? Where do you get your income from? Do you have to work for other people?
No, the income part for us, the income part is comfortable because we've dialed back our needs so significantly. Right. The job part of it comes from more planning and preparing where you're going to sleep every night, where you're going to obtain the water, where you're going to dump your tanks because you have now gray water to dump. We do travel with dogs, so making sure that the climate is safe for us and for the dogs to be comfortable. And we tend to chase weather, go places where the climate is nicer and do things in that location.
Right.
And we have the flexibility to do that.
So there's mechanical issues with the vehicles we're taking care of all the time. Medical issues for the dogs and for us you have to take care of. And you're in a foreign country. Where do I take care of this stuff? There's really neat things I want to go see. Okay, where are we parking? What's safe? What's the best road? What's the best travel? How do you handle all those pieces? And you'd think, but you could just make a plan. Well, yeah, but you're planning every day or every other day.
As soon as you cross a border, the plan is out the window. Yeah. And you're in a new country forget about a plan.
Yeah, it's a day plan to come to a border.
Yeah.
What are we going to run into? What are the rules? Okay, where's this bank where we need to go pay for our visas? Those little kind of things. How do you're moving from one country to another. How do I get the money then to pay for it when I'm not in Panama or I'm not in Honduras? I'm in Guatemala and I'm coming into Honduras. I have the Guatemala dollars, But what am I doing when I come into Honduras? Those little things, which actually are kind of interesting. You always meet interesting people when it happens, but
it's a whole day.
Yeah.
A border crossing is a whole day shot.
Have you had any like escapades or like trouble at the border anywhere?
Oh, of course we have. We've only crossed 16 plus of them.
Yeah.
Probably the funniest one was in Suriname. Right? Suriname? Guyana.
Which
The two guys are on the phone and they didn't look at us. They just
yeah.
waved us on through. And our vehicle is...
They're supposed to move trucks to the side.
Our vehicle is 11 and a half feet tall, and the cover where the two border agents were was only about 10 feet tall. But they never even looked up. They just waved.
They were on their phones.
Come on in. And our vehicle proceeded to crash into the border point of entry building in
Brazil
Guyana.
to Guyana.
Brazil to Guyana.
Yeah.
So our first day in the country, we smashed the international border building, but they were closed that day. They close on Sundays, of course, because you're in an international border between two major countries, Brazil and Suriname. But there's no agents to admit us, no agent to stamp our passport, no agent to give us a permit for the vehicle. So after we smashed the building and they waved us around the other side, they said, well, just go hang out in town, come back on Monday whenever, we'll do the paperwork. So technically we were in the country, but we weren't legally admitted to the country.
We didn't have the papers, yeah.
And those kind of things happen a lot. Other countries every country runs it differently. And as Mike said, you roll up and you have to figure out what it's going to be today. Sometimes you have to grease a little palm of a helper.
Oh, okay.
Nicaragua border is known for having border helpers that will make sure that your papers get in the right hands and speed things up.
And that's always nice.
Panama border, you have to wait behind all the truckers. Panama is a major import-export border. So you don't get to cut in front of a line of 45 semis when you're a tourist. So it's a long day.
Everybody else lets you do that.
In a hot jungle city. Central America is a hot place.
Yeah.
Definitely hot.
Yeah.
So with the theme of traveling, and I like traveling, and actually, you were the person that basically demanded me to get a passport 10 years ago. So without that, I wouldn't go on my own travel. And so for me, when I go on traveling, it's always like kind of like a journey. And I try to understand that maybe there'll be omens along my way that kind of guide me on my path. And so I was wondering, like, what have been some of the the omens or the lessons that both of you have took away from your journey so far?
That's a great question.
It's a good one.
Go ahead.
Thanks. Yeah. So the people are incredibly nice. So I think there's a couple things that we as a standard try to do. And that would be spend your money locally at the small places. Mom and pop's salad bar or sandwiches or something like that. There's all these things. So you spend your money and contribute that way. If you see somebody with a broken motorcycle and you're not in a hurry, which you're not anyways, you have a tow rope, you help them, you tow them someplace. Okay. We call that the karma bank. You're putting it in the karma bank where you're helping people and doing that kind of thing.
We invest deeply in our karma bank.
Yeah.
And it has paid back for us. Zillions of times, from flat tires here and there, stuck in the sand in one place. The help that we gave others has come back to us 100-fold over.
Right.
And we've helped people in some sketchy, weird situations. We pulled up, funny side story, we pulled up in Colombia. I think it was Colombia. The motorcycle guy had smashed his head. He was bleeding. And we'd seen him before.
He had passed us.
Us, and I thought, oh, he must have been going too fast. That's terrible, but he's crashed, and we're going to help him. And we pull over, and he gets really nervous as we approach him, and I was speaking to him in Spanish. Hey, are you okay? Is everything all right? He's looking around like this. Well, it turns out he had been robbed on his motorcycle.
Dang, okay.
A group of guys had come out of the brush and knocked him off with a big tree stick thing, which consequently he crashed, smashed his head open. They proceeded to rough him up, take his cash, his cell phone, everything for him to
Right,
contact his
right.
family for help, nobody to come and get him from the side of the road, and he was bleeding. So Mike helps with the motorcycle and the helmet. I'd bring the guy into our rig, and I start cleaning up his blood and checking his wounds and making sure he doesn't need to go to the hospital. And about that time, he's explaining his story and telling us what's going on, and the police roll up. And the police kind of pose big and tough, and they keep their hands on their guns, and they beat around in the brush a little bit, pretending like they were going to find the bad guys that had run off, but they never would have caught them. There was miles of
gone.
cornfields to run into. And the police say, well, call your family. And he says, I don't have my cell phone. Well, we'll call you a taxi and you can use that. He said, I don't have any money. I have nothing left. So Mike and I slip the equivalent of $50 into his hand. And then we say, listen, we need to go because we as Americans should not be involved in situations like this.
Right.
So if, I've cleared your wound, I've bandaged it as best I could. Here's a little money to help you get home, whatever that looks like. We got to get out of here because there are certain limitations in other countries that you kind of need to be careful of. So we packed up and drove away, and we'll never hear from the guy, but we drove away knowing that between the wound help and making him feel better and giving him a little money to try to get home, we were probably 60 to 100 miles from the nearest city. So he has a major hassle ahead of him. But
he
those
at least
kind
has
of
some money. He could get back on his motorcycle. It still ran, so he was all right.
So, but those kind of incidents that occur that we have the opportunity to pull over and do a good deed puts a little money in our karma bank. And then the next time when we have a blowout on a crazy road in the middle of nowhere in Brazil, all of a sudden there's a guy there and he's got a truck and he's willing to help us and take us to the nearest place to fix the tire and bring us back. And, and it all, what goes around comes around. And we lead with a smile and everything else works.
Tell the story about in Honduras at the hummingbird sanctuary that we were at. We went to Hummingbird Sanctuary. And then
we're way up in the mountains, which is jungle mountains, super like cloud forest, right? It's real foggy and everything. And we spent 2 days watching hummingbirds in this hummingbird preserve that they planted just the right plants that Honduras hummingbirds like. Finally get around to heading back down the mountain on this almost single track bumpy road, come around the bend, and there is a young fella, maybe 19, 20, laying on the side of the road with a really huge machete in his hand next to him. And his leg is just pouring blood. And there's pooled blood under him. And he's starting to look a little like this. And we pull over and say, hey, are you okay? He says, no, I need to go home. Yeah, you do. Let me help you. And on the back of our vehicle, we have a wooden deck. It's about the size of a major coffee table. So Mike lifts him up onto the wooden deck, and we bump along down the road, and he says, right here, this is my aunt's house. She'll help me. And he's by then pretty much passed out. And his aunt comes out of the house. She wipes it off with rainwater bucket rag that she wrings out, wipes off his lower leg, and it turns out he was his first day at his aunt's field slashing corn back so that they could grow a new crop.
They do a lot of work with machetes there.
Yeah, a machete is a common hand tool. But he had slashed his own leg in the process. He was new at this.
His Achilles heel.
And he had probably 18-inch gash wrapped across the bone and then around to the backside.
Yeah, it's nasty.
She says, okay, I think he's going to be okay. You take him down the hill, the first house on the left, past the old bank that's not there anymore, near the tienda, that's the costurera. I said, you want me to take him to the costurera for this? Well, yeah, that's the city seamstress. She'll sew it up. She makes costurera like a costumer. She makes dresses and tuxedos.
They didn't have money
She's going to sew him up. I said, I think he needs to go to the hospital. He's lost a lot of blood, and that's a major gash. Well, we can't afford that, honey. I'm sorry. Just take him to the costurera, and then he can walk back. Walk back. This is like 3 miles uphill to get back to the aunt's house from the costurera, from the seamstress. So we look at him and we look at her, we look at each other. Yep, here we go. Okay,
one of them.
We're going to take him to the hospital.
Gets in with him.
We're going to take him to the hospital.
Put a bucket underneath so he catches the blood. Put him in the unit.
She says, well, the uncle has to go if you're taking him to the hospital because he's new here. Nobody knows him. So uncle climbs in. Kid is helped in. Bucket put underneath him. Towels wrapped around it. Try to stop the bleeding. His shoes were ruined. We ended up giving him a couple pair of shoes because he literally had filled his shoes with blood trying to catch it. I don't know what he was going to save it for. But
yeah.
Anyway, we haul him down this mountain top into, I'd say it was about 25 miles to the nearest true medical facility, which is a tiny Red Cross hospital.
Yeah.
And they get him right in. They're very concerned. Very, very rudimentary facilities.
Okay.
The gurney hasn't been cleaned in many years.
But they had enough of everything. But, they had painkillers and the bandages, and the doctor was there, and they sewed him up fast.
Yeah.
They sewed him up fast.
Probably 20 minutes. 30 minutes we were out of there. And it was basically like they used the last of the thread they had to sew him. They used the last of the bandages. And so they said, well, he's going to need to change this and keep it clean. And I'm like, keep it clean? Auntie's washing it with rainwater. I don't know how clean it's going to be. Oh, okay. Well, then here's some prescription for antibiotics. Okay. We don't have any of it to give you, but here's what you need to get. Go to the pharmacy across and you can pick it up there and take it with him. So we went and picked up all the medical supplies he was going to need to hopefully keep himself clean and healthy as he healed from this giant thing. And the uncle was thankful and the kid was thankful, and they got new shoes, medical supplies, and then we paid a taxi to run them back up the mountain because we were headed a different direction.
The whole thing, $25.
Oh, man, America's healthcare system. What are you doing to me?
It was like,
And they were extremely grateful. I mean, $25 for them, forget about it. We'll go to the seamstress to sew it up, and then we'll pour rainwater on it to clean it.
I can't believe that.
But for us, it was nothing compared to our own budget, and it was, again, a huge deposit in our karma bank.
Yeah.
So those are the kind of omens that have led us as we travel. It's been more about what can we do good for others so that it comes back around to us when we need it. And we've towed people across riverbeds that were stuck in their little family sedan out for the river day, and then the car got stuck.
It's 10 miles up there. That was crazy.
We've had some fun stuff.
It's fun.
We've delivered puppies on the sidewalk in front of a vet's office because the vet's office was closed. And
there was, a pregnant dog there?
There's a street dog having babies.
Right there.
Everybody's just walking around her. So we stopped and spent an afternoon delivering puppies and finding a place for them to go.
Okay.
Yeah, we still keep in touch. The people we've met, I still text with the girl who helped me deliver the puppies. I still text with the family that we towed out of a river. Just opportunities to make the world smaller and be reminded that there is good everywhere if you find it.
Agreed. And, because of the last year, I feel like we've kind of been disconnected. And the last time I was in Germany, I got the privilege to bring some students to Ernst Reuter 2, which is a school in Frankfurt. And they have a Holocaust survivor there. And we got to actually do a small little interview with 2 kids, her, me, and the other teacher. And the biggest thing that they took away from it is the lady's it's people. People are people. You have to help out the ones, because if the good Germans didn't help me escape to England, I would have probably went to a concentration camp. So that always reminds me when we're traveling that people are people, and it doesn't matter where we're from. You got to help it out. And it just seems like you guys put the saint in the Saint-Amour wherever you go, right? I know. I was saving that. I was just saving that one.
Well, too, and Zinni, I tell people that. Actually, people are very similar. First is they always complain about the government. The taxes are always too high, but they always want the best for their kids and for themselves and jobs and things like that. Always the best that way. It seems that they're very, very giving outside the States. I mean, it may be that I just understand the language so much better, but every place we've been, it's almost at first was uncomfortable. Wow, these people are just being too nice to us, and this is part of this. They're bringing this out and that out for food or doing these different things. They're just, it feels comfortable to be able to give back. Every place we've been, it's just been amazing. I mean, we stayed in Brazil at the farm, getting our rig ready or getting ready to leave for 5 weeks, and these people never expected anything from us. We had to force money on them, force gas into their car, and it's just
had to make crazy American food just so I could feel like it was contributing to family meals once in a while.
Amazingly
What do they
friendly.
consider as American food?
Well, like we mentioned,
spices.
The pumpkin.
They don't do spices.
Yeah, they don't make
Brazil.
spicy food, so they love anything. Anytime I make something make my own salsa, make like an enchilada sauce.
Ooh, okay.
They're crazy about that because they don't. Brazilian food's pretty bland, not spicy.
Kind of sucks. Okay.
Except for the meat.
Oh, the meat, yeah. The barbecue.
Yeah.
So you've been to how many countries?
16. Well, on this journey,
16.
we've been to 16.
16, okay. So what are some of the unexpected places that you kind of found like magic or beauty or really felt like, that was your place throughout your journeys?
Wow. Well, almost any of the mountains in Mexico are incredible.
Okay.
The mountain communities. We were shocked by how beautiful Chiapas and Oaxaca, the states in Mexico, are.
Yeah.
Both beautiful states with incredible history and great culture in the people. I think Lake Ometepe in Nicaragua was a big surprise to me. I didn't even think about an inland lake. Nicaragua has water on both sides. A lot of people go there for diving on the Corn Island side and all of that, but in the middle of Nicaragua, there was this really cool little round lake.
Nicaragua almost got the canal.
Right.
It's
From
actually,
Panama?
It's actually shorter if they had gone that way.
It would have been shorter, but
They would have gone through that lake.
Colombia surprised us. We ended up spending a lot longer in Colombia than we expected.
Is it as dangerous as everybody paints it to?
No, not at all. Especially for tourists, because often the tourists are considered untouchable. In fact, the only country I don't think they're considered untouchable is Costa Rica, because Costa Rica survives on tourism, so they take advantage of you in Costa Rica. Okay. But every place else, it's like, this person's a tourist. Don't
respect them.
Give them, and help them. They'll spend money here. So, and they all understand that you're bringing in clean money. You're not taking jobs. You're, spending money at grandma's house buying a shirt or something like that, so.
Another surprise.
Yes.
French Guiana, depending on how you say it. French Guiana is at the very top.
Yeah.
There's 3 little countries up there. Guyana, like we remember Georgetown and drink the purple Kool-Aid, right? So that's Guyana. Suriname is in the middle. Fascinating country. Not really fun to visit, but fascinating because they have...
It's Danish.
It's Danish with a Hindu underculture.
Whoa, okay, that's pretty chill.
And then French Guiana was Europe. It's Europe. So when we crossed that line, we had to have euros. We were being stamped into Europe.
It's a state of France. It's like Alaska is to the U.S., right?
Right, it is. It's
shocking, though.
It's their stepchild way off on another continent, just like Alaska is way up there.
Yeah.
But we were able to be in French Guiana for his birthday, which happened to also be a launch of SpaceX.
Really?
So
Ariane.
I'm sorry, Ariane, not SpaceX.
Yes.
Ariane. So we were able to be
Space
there
Agency,
at the European Space Station, parked, 2 miles from where the launch site is. And then the French police came, the French military came, parked right next to us with their... What was that little missile thing?
They have these Stinger missiles, and they're parked right beside us, okay? And I have a SpaceX shirt on, and the guy wants to take pictures of the SpaceX shirt. They're parked right beside our camper. So, we're here just in case, right? And people are gathering because they can watch the launch from there. But it was a trip. It was
just a public beach where everyone
So we have a military vehicle 30 feet away, and in the States, you can't be within 200 feet of that thing, It's like, nope.
Yep,
that's it. Everybody's sitting right here.
They were pretty cool. It was funny.
That was good.
And they were there because if anything threatens the launch, they have this Stinger missile. They can either shoot down the threat or they can shoot down the launch.
Interesting. Okay.
To salvage it. Yeah.
Huh.
They, of course, were willing to tell us all that while they talked to us.
Yeah, it was funny.
French guys. Yeah, so that was a fun surprise, was getting to see a launch.
There were two places, Antigua and Atitlan in Guatemala, that are amazing. And Guatemala is 50% indigenous, so it's native folks, and they don't speak Spanish. But the
Quechua.
colors and the people are so different. They're really short, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And Antigua is at about 7,500 feet. It's an old city, maybe 600, 700 years old. It's just really cool.
It's beautiful.
The other one, Colombia has a whole bunch of neat stuff. Bogota was really cool, and Medellin was neat. And there's a whole bunch of neat. You're up in the Andes, so you can get to the Andes are worth it. That's just an amazing experience just to be involved in the Andes.
But truly the one that probably stimulated our learning minds every day and causing us to stretch and grow as far as what we remembered from school and oh my gosh, we got to go look that up on our computers, was Peru.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because Peru, from the minute you cross the border, is just packed with ruins and artifacts and structures, and some of them are owned by the government and preserved. The infamous Machu Picchu, of course, is there, but there is so much more than ever could be publicized or managed by the Peruvian government. Mm-hmm. And it becomes the point that every little mountaintop you look at, you glance at it, oh, it's just a hill. Wait, look at those buildings. Yeah. There must have been a whole culture living there. And we were able to go to a place called Corral, and spelled coral, but Corral is the oldest known population in South America.
Well, and it rivals Egypt.
Yeah.
I mean,
really?
4,500 years BC. Yeah.
And they didn't have any weapons. They had musical instruments. They didn't have any money. They only traded goods.
Yeah, that's cool. That's a cool place.
Interesting how civilization evolves over time, right?
Yeah.
The town of Cusco there, which is probably 40 or 50,000 people. So it's in the sides of the mountain, and you're at 12,000 feet. I mean, we were there for probably 6 weeks, 2 months. We loved it. And that's the gateway to Machu Picchu. You have to start there to do it. But it's just, there's so many cultural things that are going on.
So much to learn
cool.
about the churches and how the bottom layer is the original Inca stones. And then here's the Catholic
stones. They built the church on top of it.
By the Spanish on top. And it was fantastic.
Everywhere you go, it's pretty cool.
I never got why other religions or other civilizations come in and just build temples like on top of temples.
Right.
Like that's so in like the Middle East and like in Egypt and everything. So that's fascinating. So, you're here in America. You're kind of stranded in America, right? You're quarantined in America, which is kind of funny. So what's kind of like the next chapter? Like, what do you plan on doing until the borders get to reopen?
Well, what do we plan on doing? Right now, we are busying ourselves here in Prescott, reconnecting with friends, working some at North Point, putting in some time on our vehicle projects and figuring out what we want to drive as a vehicle while we're here in the States. Probably in June, we'll start moving even higher elevation than Prescott because we like to chase the temperature.
Right.
Yeah.
And after that, we're kind of undecided. Waiting to hear what the offers are. What do you got? Let's go. Let's go have some fun.
Well, your ultimate goal is to take your vehicle or your home to every continent. Is that correct still?
Eventually, we'd like to explore, not necessarily our vehicle. We've learned a lesson about that as well, that shipping is very expensive.
Right.
And once you ship, for example, our GMC in South America is a unicorn. There are no GMCs in South America. So if a timing belt goes out or an alternator, if we aren't carrying it, which we carry a lot of parts, but if we aren't carrying that part, it's a logistical nightmare to get a hold of.
It takes a long time to get.
So having learned that and the expense of shipping right now especially, it would be about, for example, if we wanted to bring our truck from Brazil to the United States, it would cost about $6,000.
What?
Plus port fees in the U.S., which could be another $2,000 on top of that. It's undisclosed.
Okay.
So we will probably continue our dream of visiting each continent, but we'll probably do it by picking up a vehicle on
Right.
each continent that's more of a local rig brand from that area, and then either gift it or resell it when we're done.
Sweet.
Yeah, that's the way to go.
Okay.
And right now, I think so. We'll tour the U.S. and continue to tour the U.S. until borders open back up in Brazil, or in South America. Because right now, still nothing is open. And then
Land borders.
Land
Land
borders.
borders, yeah.
You can fly in, but that doesn't help at all. So
We're about a day's drive from Uruguay, where the vehicle is stored. So we'll get down there. We'll hit Uruguay, hit Ushuaia, the lowest point, southern point.
Nice.
And we need to back up and do Argentina, Chile, Bolivia, Paraguay.
Okay. So in a couple years, where will I be meeting you in South America?
Where would you like to go? What do you want to see? How about Patagonia?
I could do that, bro. Yeah, Patagonia, bro. Yeah.
yeah.
All right.
Patagonia is amazing.
So I'd have to meet you in our wintertime, right?
Yes.
Right. They are exactly
December
reversed.
through March.
Okay.
Yep.
I think I can make that happen. I want to go to Brazil or Peru for the most part.
Peru is incredible.
Because I really love ancient cultures. And I just geek out. Like I had the best time in Cambodia, just like chilling up on like the oldest temple in Angkor Wat, and just hearing the monk pray, writing poetry. Like the only time I ever write poetry. So I think let's do it. Patagonia.
Patagonia, or if you want to see the ancient cultures, maybe we need to do Bolivia, Peru.
Okay.
They share a border.
Okay.
And if you fly into one and cross over to the other, you'll cover a lot of centuries of history.
So we're about to end the interview, and so for those who just got introduced to you, can you plug your blog for them? And
Sure. All these crazy stories and so many more appear on www.slowcarfasthouse.com. We also have an Instagram. It's not a slow car, it's a fast house. We have a Facebook page. It's not a slow car, it's a fast house. You'll see the different vehicles we've used and photos of everything from delivering puppies on the sidewalk to helping the bloody kid get to the hospital, plus zillions more. And get in touch with us if you have questions, if you're thinking of doing this journey yourself. I love encouraging people like you to grow the wings and get out there and do it. We're happy to help anybody. We're not influencers. We're not making any money off this. No, we do have stickers that we like to give away to people, but this is more about helping others make that same leap from what we did and helping them from our experiences, because not everybody has to make some of the same mistakes. So
that'd be helpful.
We'll support those and answer any questions.
Sweet. Yep. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Five Senses webcast. I had a really great time at our interview today, and I hope you did too. If you want more information and more interviews, log on to 5ensesmag.com. You can like us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for more information, and always subscribe to us at YouTube. Until next time, this is Rob Zinni signing off.